Welcome back, children. So in the previous posting, I had completed the required syllabus for the play, The Merchant of Venice. According to your reduced syllabus, the play is only up to Act 4, Scene 2, and up to that I have completed. So we will now move on to the remainder of the short stories. And the first story I have picked up today is My Greatest Olympic Prize. This story had come in 2019 and is quite important for your ICSE in 2021. Now, before we move on to the story, a brief background to this story, which is very, very important. First of all, My Greatest Olympic Prize. Now in the story we will see whether this Olympic prize is the gold medal that Jesse Owens had won, or is it something else. This story that we are going to do is autobiographical. The great American athlete Jesse Owens, who won 4 gold medals in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, had written this article for the Reader's Digest in 1960. Now, this story is dealing with the Summer Olympics of 1936, which was held at Berlin in Germany. You know, at that time, Germany was ruled by the Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. Now, Hitler had a strange theory of his own, and he had made many Germans believe in this theory. This theory was called the theory of Aryan supremacy. That means Hitler believed that the Aryan race is the most superior in this world. The Germans belong to the Aryan race. The other Europeans are of inferior race. And because the Germans belong to the superior race, the Aryan race, Hitler expected that most of the medals in the 1936 Olympics will be won by the Germans. That was the Aryan theory supremacy. Now, Jesse Owens was an American athlete, a black, a Negro. He had won plenty of competitions in the USA since his school days. And 1 year before the Olympics, that is in 1935, Jesse Owens had set a world record in the broad jump, which today is called the long jump. And because he was the world record holder, obviously everybody in the world expected that Jesse Owens would win the gold medal in the running broad jump or the long jump. But we will see what happens, and that incident that happens during the Olympics is the substance or the material of this story. My Greatest Olympic Prize by Jesse Owens. I told you it is autobiographical. He is talking about himself. It was the summer of 1936. The Olympic Games were being held in Berlin. I have already mentioned it. The background is the 1936 Berlin Olympics to be held at Berlin in Germany. Because Hitler childishly insisted that his performers were members of a master race, nationalistic feelings were at an all-time high. I also told you, Adolf Hitler, the Nazi ruler of Germany of that time, foolishly believed in one theory, the theory of Aryan supremacy. He believed that the Germans were Aryans, They were of the most superior race. They were supposed to win almost all the medals. And many of the Germans also believed in this theory. So there was a national excitement in Germany because people were expecting all the German performers and participants at the Olympics not only to do well, but to win almost all the medals. I wasn't too worried about all this. Jesse Owens was not worried about all these propaganda. I had trained, sweated and disciplined myself for 6 years with the games in mind. Jesse Owens had trained himself, practiced, he had sweated, he had worked hard, he had led a very disciplined life, keeping the Berlin Olympics in mind because his determination was to win a couple of gold medals. While I was over on the boat, all I could think about was taking home 1 or 2 of those gold medals. Boat is the ship. So when he was traveling from the USA to Germany by ship, during the journey, the mind of Jesse Owens was always preoccupied with one thought. The thought that I will go back home winning 1 or 2 of those gold medals. I had my eye especially on the running broad jump. Jesse Owens was specially focused on the broad jump, or what we today call the long jump. He was focused on this because he was the world record holder in this event, and it was expected that he will win the gold medal at the Olympics. A year before, as a sophomore at Ohio State University, I had set the world's record of 26 feet 8 1/4 inches. A year before this Olympics in 1935, at that time, Jesse Owens was a second-year college student at Ohio State University. Sophomore means second-year college student or high school student. As a student of this university, he had done or participated in an event, and at that event he had created a world record in the running broad jump. Everyone kind of expected me to win the Olympic event hands down. Everybody in the world was expecting that since Jesse Owens was the world record winner and holder in the broad jump, he would easily win this event at the Olympics. I was in for a surprise. However, when he reached Berlin, a surprise was waiting for him in the form of a long jumper from Germany, a broad jumper from Germany whose name was Luz Long. When the time came for the broad jump trials, I was startled to see a tall boy hitting the pit at almost 26 feet on his practice leaps. Before the main event of the Olympics was to take place, heats or trials were taking place, and Jesse Owens was shocked and surprised to notice that this German broad jumper, Luz Long, was easily jumping 26 feet. Imagine, if he was jumping 26 feet at the trials or the heats, what will he do when it came to the final event? He turned out to be German, named Luz Long. Jesse Owens came to know that he was a German. His name was Luz Long. I was told that Hitler had kept him under wraps, evidently hoping to win the jump with him. Owens also came to know that the world did not know about Luz Long because Hitler had kept him a secret from the world. Obviously, Hitler wanted to surprise the world by presenting Luz Long directly at the Olympics so that the world would know that he had somebody who could beat Jesse Owens. And most importantly, Hitler expected that the broad jump gold medal would be easily won by Luz Long, and that will establish and prove his theory of Aryan supremacy to be right. I guess that if Long won, it would add some new support to the Nazis' Aryan superiority theory. Owens was aware of this fact. Owens knew that if Luz Long won at the broad jump, his win, his victory would add support to the theory of Hitler of Aryan superiority. He could prove to the world that since Long has won, Long was a German or an Aryan, therefore the Aryans are the most superior in this world. After all, I am a Negro. I have already mentioned that Jesse Owens, the athlete, was a black, a Negro. A little hot under the collar about Hitler's ways. Obviously, Jesse Owens did not believe in this rubbish theory of Aryan supremacy, but he was hurt, disappointed, and angry with Hitler for this stupid theory. I determined to go out there and really show der Führer and his master race who was superior and who wasn't. Der Führer was the political title given to Adolf Hitler. He was popularly called Führer Hitler. Führer in German means the leader. Obviously, Hitler was the leader of the Germans. Jesse Owens was now very determined. He was determined to prove to the world that Hitler's theory of Aryan supremacy was totally wrong. And by winning the broad jump, Owens wanted to prove who was superior and who was not. An angry athlete is an athlete who will make mistakes. As any coach will tell you, I was no exception. When you become angry while doing something, you cannot focus, you cannot concentrate, and therefore you make mistakes. Jesse Owens was not an exception. He was angry with Hitler, and out of anger, he started making mistakes. On the first of the 3 qualifying jumps, I leaped from several inches beyond the takeoff board for a foul. On the second jump, I fouled even worse. Now please pay attention to what I am going to tell you. In the heats or the trials, every broad jumper was supposed to get 3 chances to qualify for the finals. Now imagine this is the starting board, meaning this is the point from where you will have to take the jump and reach the sand pit where you will land. Now while jumping, you can jump from behind the starting lineup, but you cannot overstep. If you overstep, it's a foul jump. It's not taken into account. In the first trial jump, what Owens did is he overstepped. So it was a foul jump. In the second chance, he overstepped further. His performance was worse. That means out of the 3, 2 were foul jumps, and he now had only 1 chance more. If he fouled in the last chance or opportunity, he would get disqualified and would not qualify for the finals. Did I come 3,000 miles for this? I thought bitterly. Owens was bitter and angry with himself. He was telling himself, did I travel all the way from USA to Germany? Did I travel 3,000 miles just to make foul jumps? To foul out of the trials and make a fool of myself? Did I come here to make fouls during my jumps and I will look like an idiot or a fool in the eyes of the world? People will laugh at me and say, look, Jesse Owens, the world record holder in broad jump. In the Olympics, he could not even jump a proper jump. He only fouled. Owens was very, very angry and disappointed with himself. Walking a few yards from the pit, I kicked disgustedly at the dirt. After the 2 foul jumps, when Owens was walking back from the pit towards the starting line, he was so very angry and disappointed with himself, disgusted with himself, that he was kicking the soil with his foot out of anger and disappointment. Suddenly I felt a hand on my shoulder. Somebody had kept a hand on his shoulder. I turned to look into the friendly blue eyes of the tall German broad jumper. When Owens turned back to see who it was, he found it was that tall German broad jumper, Luz Long, with blue friendly eyes. He had easily qualified for the finals on his first attempt. He offered me a firm handshake. Luz Long had already qualified for the finals in his very first jump. He was so good. He extended his hands, shook hands with Owens. Jesse Owens, I am Luz Long. I don't think we have met. We have not met before. He spoke English well, though with a German twist to it. You know, English is spoken in many countries, but in every country there is a particular way or accent of speaking English. We Indians speak English in one way, Britishers speak it in another way, Americans speak it in another way, the Australians speak it in another way. The language is the same, English, only the throw, the delivery is different, which is called accent. Luz Long knew English, but when he spoke English, he spoke it with a German accent. Glad to meet you, I said. Owens said, I'm very glad and happy to meet you. Then, trying to hide my nervousness, I added, how are you? Obviously, Owens inwardly was very, very tensed and nervous because he had only one more chance to qualify. But he tried to hide his nervousness and tension, and he casually asked Luz Long, I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. The question is, how are you? Luz Long said, I'm fine. But what is the matter with you? How are you? Implying you don't look well. Something is going on in your mind. Believe me, I know it, I told him, and it felt good to say that to someone. Owens said, sorry, I have missed out. Something must be eating you, he said. Something must be going on in your mind. Something must be raking your brains. Proud the way foreigners are when they have mastered a bit of American slang. This word eating is a slang. It means bothering you. Something is bothering your mind. But instead of the word bother, Luz Long used the word eating. He was very proud that he not only had learned the English language, he had also learned American slangs. You should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. See, Luz Long is very friendly. He is encouraging Owens and saying, come on, you are the world record holder. You are such a great broad jumper. Even if you jump with your eyes closed, you can qualify. That much quality and skill you have. Believe me, I know it, I told him, and it felt good to say that to someone. Luz Long was encouraging Owens, and Owens said, believe me, Mr. Long, I know I am aware of my ability and skill. I know I can easily qualify. And he felt good because he had shared his problem with somebody. And who was that somebody? That somebody was nobody else but his bitterest rival, his greatest opponent. This is something very important, because we will see when we come to the end of the story, this greatest Olympic prize that Owens is talking about is not the medal that he won or the medals he won. His greatest prize was the lifelong, everlasting friendship that he developed with this German Luz Long. This friendship was the greatest Olympic prize that he had won at the Berlin Olympics of 1936. So, my dear students, we stop one more class. This story will be over. Thank you.